Hey guys, tonight we're going to explore what you did when you just couldn't fall asleep, 2000 years ago. Imagine it's 3 a.m. Your eyes are wide open, but you can't just scroll through social media or pop a melatonin gummy. You have to get creative. And believe me, their definition of creative was a bit different from ours. Honestly, without your blackout curtains and a 10-hour ambient rain soundtrack, you probably wouldn't last a single restless night. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I always love seeing where and when you're all tuning in from. So feel free to drop your city and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice isn't the darkness, but the noise. It's a constant, layered hum, punctuated by sudden, sharp sounds that jolt you just as you begin to drift. You're lying on a mattress stuffed with straw, or perhaps reeds. If you're a bit better off, and it rustles with every slight shift of your weight. The wool blanket is coarse against your skin. A familiar, scratchy comfort. You live on the third floor of an insula, one of the teeming, precarious apartment blocks that house the vast majority of Rome's population. It's less a cozy home and more a stack of human lives. Separated by walls that seem to be made of little more than plaster and wishful thinking. You can hear everything. Below you, the baker is already at work. The rhythmic thud of dough being slammed against a wooden board, a muffled, persistent drumbeat. To your left, a baby is crying, a thin, reedy wail that seems to have no end. To your right, a couple is having a low, intense argument, their angry whispers managing to pierce through the wall with surprising clarity. Your neighbor's snoring isn't just a sound, it's a percussive instrument. A wet, rattling bass line in the city's nocturnal symphony. From the street below, you hear the clang of a dropped metal bucket, a shouted curse, and then the hurried footsteps of the vigils. The night watchmen, making their rounds. They are Rome's combination police force and fire brigade. And the sound of their heavy-soled sandals on the cobblestones is a reminder of the city's two greatest fears, crime and fire. A stray spark from that baker's oven or a knocked-over oil lamp in your neighbor's apartment could turn this entire wooden-beamed structure into an inferno in minutes. It's not exactly a thought that encourages peaceful slumber. Sleep, you're beginning to realize, isn't a universal right here. It's a luxury commodity, a precious resource that is fought for, earned, and often lost. You close your eyes, trying to will yourself into unconsciousness. You focus on your breathing. A slow inhale through the nose. A long exhale through the mouth. The air is cool and damp, carrying a complex bouquet of city smells. There's the wood smoke from countless braziers. The faint, sweet scent of baking bread from below. The sharp tang of garlic and garum, that infamous fermented fish sauce, lingering from someone's late dinner. And underneath it all, the ever-present, acrid smell of the city's less than perfect sanitation. You roll over, pulling the blanket tighter around your shoulders. The window is just a square opening in the wall. No glass, just a pair of wooden shutters you can close against the worst of the weather. Tonight, you've left them open for the breeze. The moonlight paints a pale rectangle on the opposite wall. The shadows of the rooftops creating stark, geometric patterns. You watch a moth flutter in the beam of light, its wings beating a silent, frantic rhythm. Even the insects seem restless tonight. Historians still debate just how effective the famous nighttime ban on wheeled carts in Rome actually was. While the rumbling of supply wagons was theoretically silenced after dusk, the law was full of exceptions for things like public works and religious processions. Meaning the deep, vibrating groan of wooden wheels on stone was never truly gone. Your mind begins to wander. You think about the day ahead, the long hours at the workshop, the heat, the dust, the demanding foreman. You need to be rested. You need to sleep, but the more you need it, the more it seems to elude you. A cruel paradox of the tired mind. Your body is heavy with fatigue. Your muscles ache, but your brain is a hive of activity, buzzing with the anxieties of the day past and the day to come. This is the moment of decision. You can't simply lie here all night, a prisoner of your own wakefulness. The city offers no peace, so you must find it, or create it, yourself. And that means turning to the wisdom of your time, to the remedies passed down through generations, whispered by grandmothers and prescribed by physicians. It's time to try and fix this. The first step, as always, is a trip to your own kitchen. You swing your legs off the straw mattress, your feet finding the cold, uneven stone floor. The movement is slow, deliberate. You don't want to wake the others who share this small, two-room apartment with you. Your kitchen is less a room and more a designated corner of the main living space, marked by a small, cold hearth, a few pieces of simple earthenware pottery, and a large clay jug, an amphora, holding the day's water. There's no glowing refrigerator light to guide you, no appliance humming in the corner. There is only the pale moonlight from the window and the dim, flickering glow from a single, cheap terracotta oil lamp you left burning, its wick floating in a small pool of olive oil, casting long, dancing shadows that make the familiar space seem strange and uncertain. You tiptoe over, your thin leather sandals making almost no sound. Your quest is simple. Find something, anything, that might coax your buzzing mind into silence. Your eyes scan the meager supplies. A half loaf of coarse, dark bread, a wedge of hard cheese wrapped in a damp cloth, a handful of dried figs. These are for the morning, for sustenance, not for slumber. Then you see it. Tucked in a clay bowl is a loose bunch of lettuce. This isn't the crisp, watery iceberg or romaine you might imagine. This is a wilder, darker green, slightly bitter-looking leaf, a relative of the plant we now call Lactuca virosa. This is your first and simplest option. The connection between lettuce and sleep was common knowledge, as fundamental as knowing that wine makes you warm and bread fills your belly. You know the stories. You've heard that the great Emperor Augustus himself credited a serious recovery from illness to his physician's prescription of lettuce. If it's good enough for an emperor, it's good enough for you on a restless third-floor walk-up. You take a few leaves. The conventional wisdom is simply to eat it raw. You chew on a leaf. Its taste earthy and slightly bitter. The real power, according to folk knowledge, is in the milky white sap that sometimes beads up on the stem. This sap, they say, calms the spirit. Historians still debate whether the Romans had a precise pharmacological understanding of lettuce's sedative properties, the lactucarium that gives it a mild opium-like effect, or if they simply made an empirical connection. Eating this stuff makes you sleepy. For you, the distinction is academic. You just want it to work. But tonight feels like it requires something stronger than a simple salad. Your gaze falls on a small clay bowl next to the figs. It's filled with tiny, dark specks, poppy seeds. Everyone knows the poppy. The flower is beautiful. Its pod's a source of powerful medicine, but also great danger in the wrong hands. The seeds, however, are considered safe, a common ingredient used to add flavor and texture to breads and cakes. But they also carry a whisper of the plant's tranquilizing power. It's a remedy that requires a little more preparation, a bit more intention. You take a small stone mortar and pestle, a prized possession, and pour a spoonful of the seeds into the bowl. You begin to grind, a soft, rhythmic crunching sound that is strangely satisfying. The motion is repetitive, meditative. As you crush the seeds, they release a faint, nutty, earthy aroma. You're not just making a snack, you're performing a small ritual. You're convincing your body, as much as your mind, that you are taking action. After a few minutes, the seeds are a rough, dark paste. You add a drizzle of honey from a small pot. Its amber sweetness a necessary counter to the bitterness of the poppy. Then, a small splash of cheap, watered-down wine, not for intoxication, but to bind it all together and, you hope, to amplify the effect. You stir the mixture with your finger into a thick, gritty slurry. It's a proto-Ambien smoothie. A homemade calming potion. It's not a complex chemical formula. Just a simple concoction of hope. You lick the paste from your finger. The taste is complex, the earthy bitterness of the poppy, the rich, floral sweetness of the honey, and the faint, acidic tang of the wine. It's not unpleasant. You scoop the rest of the mixture out of the mortar, making sure not to waste a drop. This is your investment in the night's peace. Holding on to this small, lingering hope, you tiptoe back to your bed. The noises from the city and your neighbors haven't ceased, but perhaps they seem a little more distant now, a little less personal. You lie back down, the scratch of the wool blanket a little less irritating, the straw mattress rustling as you settle in. You've done what you can with what you have. You've turned to the quiet wisdom of the kitchen. Now, all you can do is close your eyes and wait for the gentle magic to work its way through you. quieting the world from the inside out. The lettuce has been eaten. The poppy seed paste consumed. But an hour later, sleep still feels like a distant country you can't find on a map. The initial wave of hopeful drowsiness has receded, leaving you back where you started, awake. This is when a more profound, more unsettling thought creeps in. Maybe this isn't just a simple case of a restless night. Maybe something is fundamentally wrong. Maybe you are out of balance. This is a terrifying thought because, in your world, balance is everything. It's the very foundation of health, happiness, and life itself. The concept is championed by the most respected physicians. Men like the great Galen of Pergamon, whose theories have become the unshakable bedrock of Roman medicine. You start to think in Galenic terms, performing a self-diagnosis in the dark. Your body, you know, is governed by 4 essential fluids. The 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Each humor corresponds to a season, an element, and a fundamental quality. Blood is hot and moist, like spring. Phlegm is cold and moist, like winter. Yellow bile is hot and dry, like summer. And black bile, the source of melancholy, is cold and dry, like autumn. A healthy person is a person in perfect humoral balance. Sickness, whether of the body or the mind, is simply the result of one of these humors becoming excessive or deficient. Your insomnia, therefore, isn't just an inconvenience, it's a symptom. A red flag signaling a deeper, internal disharmony. Lying there, you analyze your state. You don't feel particularly feverish. So an excess of hot and dry yellow bile seems unlikely. That's the humor of choleric, angry people. And while you're frustrated, you aren't consumed by rage. You don't have a cough or a runny nose. So an overabundance of cold and moist phlegm is probably not the issue either. Phlegmatic people are sluggish and calm, the opposite of your current state. That leaves 2 possibilities. Perhaps you have too much hot and moist blood, making you sanguine, energetic, cheerful, and maybe a little too lively to sleep. Or, and this is the more worrying thought, perhaps you are suffering from an excess of cold and dry black bile. This is the humor of melancholy, the one associated with quiet sadness, persistent anxiety, and, crucially, wakefulness rooted in a troubled mind. This self-diagnosis changes everything. It means the problem isn't external. It isn't just the neighbors snoring or the bakers pounding. The problem is inside you. The fortress of your own body has been breached by an imbalance. The cure, then, can't be as simple as poppy seeds. The cure must be about restoring that lost equilibrium. If you are, for instance, too hot and dry, you must introduce things that are cold and moist. This is the principle of treating with opposites, a core tenet of Galenic medicine. If you believe your sleeplessness stems from an excess of black bile, cold and dry, the logical treatment would be something warm and moist. A warm, sweetened milk, perhaps, or a gentle massage with warmed olive oil. You can almost feel the logical elegance of the system. Historians still argue about how deeply these complex theories penetrated the average Roman household. While a highly educated patrician might discuss the finer points of Galen with his Greek physician, a common person like you would likely have a more simplified, folk version of the idea. You wouldn't be reading medical treatises, but you would have absorbed the basic principle. Your body needs to be in balance. This concept would inform everything from what you eat for dinner to how you dress for the weather. It was the operating system of their physical world. This line of thinking is, in a strange way, both terrifying and comforting. It's terrifying because it suggests your own body has betrayed you. But it's comforting because it offers a framework, a set of rules, and a clear path to a potential solution. Your insomnia is no longer random, meaningless affliction. It has a cause, a name, a nature, and if it has a nature, it can be understood, and if it can be understood, it can be fought. You remember hearing a story about the philosopher and physician Celsus, who recommended that a man suffering from lethargy, an excess of cold and moist phlegm, be read to from a particularly irritating and badly written book. The heat of the annoyance meant to counteract the cold of his condition. It's a funny thought, the idea of weaponizing bad literature for medical purposes. So, you lie there in the dark, not just as a tired person, but as a patient. You are a closed system of humors, and something has gone wrong. The problem is now bigger, more scientific, more profound. The simple kitchen cures were just the first line of defense. Now, you realize, you might need to escalate your approach. Your battle for sleep has moved from the kitchen pantry to the realm of high-concept medical theory. You are no longer just trying to get some rest. You're trying to realign the fundamental forces that govern your very being. And that will require a new set of tools. Having settled on a diagnosis of an internal imbalance, let's say an excess of hot, dry yellow bile, making you agitated and restless, your next step becomes clear. You must apply a remedy with the opposite qualities, something cool and moist. The poppy paste was earthy and warming, it was the wrong approach for your specific condition. You need to cool your system, specifically your head, which feels like it's buzzing with a dry, anxious heat. And for this, you turn to another set of tools, not meant for consumption, but for absorption through the senses. You are about to engage in some targeted, medicinal aromatherapy. You slide off the bed again, this time moving with the quiet purpose of a physician treating a patient. In a small wooden chest where you keep your few personal treasures, you find your aromatic kit. It's not much, but it's precious. First, a small linen bag filled with dried lavender flowers. You pinch the bag, and the air immediately fills with that familiar, calming scent, a dry, floral, slightly sharp aroma that speaks of calm, sunny fields far from this noisy city. Lavender is known for its cooling, relaxing properties. Next to it is a small, stoppered clay vial containing rosewater. You pull the stopper and take a cautious sniff. It's a delicate, cool, sweet aroma, the ghost of a summer garden. Rosewater is the very essence of cool and moist, a direct antidote to the fiery bile you believe is plaguing your mind. Your first thought is simple. You could just place the lavender bag by your head or sprinkle a little rosewater on your pillow. This is the gentle approach. But tonight, with the baker's thuds and the baby's cries as your soundtrack, gentle feels insufficient. You need a more direct application. You decide to make a cooling plaster, a topical remedy to be applied directly to your forehead and temples. It's the ancient equivalent of putting a cold compress on your head, but with a much more fragrant and, frankly, messier methodology. Your base ingredient is a small pot of lanolin, or refined wool fat. It's a greasy, yellowish substance with a faint, sheep-like smell. It's an excellent medium for holding other ingredients against the skin. You scoop a small amount into your mortar, the same one you used for the poppy seeds earlier. Now wiped clean, you add a generous pinch of dried lavender buds and a few crushed chamomile flowers you find in another small bag. Chamomile, like the rose, is known for its soothing, cooling nature. Then, you pour in a slow trickle of the precious rosewater, just enough to loosen the thick grease. You begin to mix and mash it all together with the pestle. The result is a thick, greenish-gray paste, slightly greasy to the touch. The scent is a strange but not unpleasant combination, the sharp lavender, the sweet rose, and a grassy, apple-like note from the chamomile, all underpinned by the faint, waxy smell of the wool fat. You've just created a proto-vaporub, a bespoke medicinal balm for your overheated humors. You dip 2 fingers into the paste and smear a thick stripe across your forehead. It feels cool and slightly tingly against your skin. You add a dab to each temple. You probably look ridiculous, like a warrior putting on strange, lumpy war paint for a battle against wakefulness. You probably smell less like a person ready for sleep and more like an herb garden that has made some questionable life choices. But the logic of Galen is with you. The coolness of the plaster is physically leaching the excess heat from your head. As you lie back down, the scent is powerful, almost overwhelming, a cloud of floral and herbal notes directly in front of your face. This is where the more esoteric part of the medicine comes in. Historians still debate the precise mechanism Romans believed was at work here. Was it purely the physical properties of the plaster, the coolness, the moisture, that were restoring balance? Or did they believe the very essence of the scent, its aromatic soul, was a force that traveled through your nostrils into your brain, actively calming the spiritus, the vital breath that animated your consciousness? For you, lying there with a greasy forehead, the question is less academic and more immediate. You just hope one of those theories is correct. The cacophony of the insula is still there, but it's now filtered through a haze of lavender and rose. The sharp edges of the outside world are softened by the fragrant shield you've applied to your own head. unlike the poppy paste you ate earlier. This remedy is designed to work from the outside in. A topical assault on the fortress of your insomnia. You close your eyes, inhaling deeply. The air you breathe is no longer the stale, smoky air of your apartment. It is the cool, moist, medicated air of your own creation. You are no longer a passive victim of the night. You are an active participant in your own healing, armed with the potent magic of scent, trying to lull your own humors back into a state of peaceful equilibrium. The fragrant plaster on your forehead provides a momentary, cool distraction, but it's not a cure. The deep-seated restlessness remains, a stubborn ember that refuses to be extinguished. The night is wearing on, and your homemade remedies feel like children's toys in the face of a grown-up problem. A sense of weary desperation begins to set in. This is the point where you concede defeat on the home front. This is when you realize you need a professional. Tomorrow, you will visit the medicus. The thought itself is a little daunting. A visit to a doctor is not a casual affair. It costs money. Money that could have bought extra food or a better pair of sandals. It also means entering a world that is both respected and slightly feared. So, as you lie there, you begin to rehearse the visit in your mind. A mental preparation for the ordeal to come. You will have to get up early, before your own work begins, and make your way through the waking city to the doctor's taberna medica. You picture the shop, a small, one-room space opening directly onto a busy street, sandwiched between a sandal maker and a shop selling sizzling sausages. There's no quiet, sterile waiting room. The waiting room is the street itself, filled with the noise of commerce and the smells of city life. You imagine standing there, trying to look casual, while inside, the medicus finishes with another patient. You might hear snippets of their conversation, a complaint about a hacking cough, a description of a painful joint. The medica, as female physicians were also known, particularly for treating women, might be just as common, but the principles remain the same. Finally, it's your turn. You step over the threshold, from the bright, noisy street into the dim, strange-smelling interior. The air inside the taberna is thick with 100 competing aromas. It's a more intense, more serious version of the smells you've been experimenting with all night. You can pick out the sharp, medicinal scent of vinegar, the pungent odor of herbs hanging in dusty bunches from the ceiling, the metallic tang of bronze instruments, and the sweet, cloying smell of some simmering concoction. On shelves lining the walls, you see an array of jars, pots, and boxes, each holding some mysterious powder, dried root, or viscous liquid. It's an apothecary's library, a physical encyclopedia of cures. In one corner, you might see a set of bronze cupping vessels, used for bloodletting. On a table, a formidable collection of scalpels, probes, and forceps, gleaming dully in the low light. It's a bit like a modern-day health food store crossed with a hardware shop. And it's all slightly intimidating. The medicus himself is an imposing figure. He might be a Greek freedman, as many of the most respected physicians were, with a calm, analytical gaze that seems to see right through you. He asks you to sit on a simple wooden stool. There is no small talk. He gets straight to the point. Quid est? He asks. What is it? And so you begin your story. The one you've been living all night. You describe the tossing and turning, the inability to quiet your mind. You tell him about the noises of the insula, your anxieties about work. You explain your self-diagnosis, the excess of hot, dry bile. You detail the remedies you've already tried, the lettuce, the poppy seed paste, the cooling lavender plaster. The medicus listens patiently, nodding occasionally. He might interrupt to ask a question. What have you been eating? How much wine do you drink? He will then perform his examination. There are no stethoscopes or blood pressure cuffs. The examination is a sensory one. He will look at the color of your tongue and the whites of your eyes. He might press on your abdomen. Most importantly, he will take your wrist to feel your pulse. A diagnostic art that Galen had elevated to a high science. He'll close his eyes, concentrating, judging not just the speed but the rhythm, the strength, the quality of the blood flowing through your veins. Historians still marvel at the complex topologies of pulses Roman doctors developed, the ant-like pulse, the wave-like pulse, each indicating a different humoral state. Finally, he will examine your urine, which you would have been instructed to bring in a small flask. He will study its color, its clarity, its sediment, even its smell. for further clues about the war being waged by the humors inside you. After this thorough, if slightly strange, examination, he will pronounce his verdict. He might agree with your self-diagnosis, or he might offer a more nuanced one. Perhaps it's not just an excess of yellow bile, but a complication involving a touch of phlegmatic sluggishness. Then, and only then, will he prescribe your treatment. It will be more complex, more potent, and certainly more expensive than anything you could make yourself. He will turn to his shelves, the library of cures, and begin to select the ingredients for your personal prescription, the one you hope will finally bring you the peace you so desperately crave. Lying in your bed, this imagined consultation is a source of hope. You've escalated the problem to the highest authority you know. The responsibility is no longer just yours. You have sought professional help. And now, you can almost believe that a real solution is finally within reach. The medicus, having completed his examination, nods slowly, a thoughtful look on his face. He confirms your suspicion but refines it. Yes, there is an excess of heat, but he believes it is agitated by a nervous energy. Before prescribing some complex, foul-tasting potion, he decides to start with a powerful, widely respected, and surprisingly simple remedy. You've tried lettuce, he might say, but you have not tried it in the manner of the divine Augustus. This gets your attention. Invoking the name of the first and perhaps most revered Roman emperor lends an almost sacred weight to the prescription. You are, of course, familiar with the story. It's a piece of common knowledge, a medical legend that has been passed down for generations. The tale goes that Emperor Augustus, at a critical point in his life, fell gravely ill with a disease that baffled his team of physicians. He was suffering from abscesses on his liver, a condition that caused him great pain, fever, and, naturally, sleeplessness. His doctors, employing the standard hot and dry remedies for such an ailment, only made him worse. As he lay wasting away, a new physician was brought in, a man named Antonius Musa. Musa, going against all conventional wisdom, prescribed a course of treatment based on cold. He recommended cold baths and, most famously, a diet centered on raw lettuce. To the astonishment of the entire Roman world, the emperor made a full recovery. The event was so momentous that Augustus supposedly had a statue of Antonius Musa erected in his honor. The story cemented the reputation of lettuce not just as a mild folk remedy, but as a potent, almost miraculous therapeutic agent, endorsed by the highest authority in the land. The medicus is tapping into this powerful narrative. He isn't just prescribing a vegetable, he's prescribing an imperial cure. The key, the doctor explains, is not simply to eat a few leaves before bed. The cooling properties must be systematically introduced. He lays out a plan for you. You are to consume a significant quantity of lettuce, not as part of a meal, but as a specific, targeted dose. He might specify a particular type of lettuce, perhaps the darker, more bitter variety known for its stronger sap. He instructs you on how to prepare it, not with oil and vinegar, which have their own humoral properties that could interfere, but simply washed in cold water. You are to eat this an hour before you intend to sleep, allowing its cooling, moistening properties to begin their work, to permeate your system and start to pacify the hot, agitated bile. This prescription is both reassuring and a little comical. After all the fear about your internal balance and the intimidating array of medical tools, the ultimate first-line professional treatment is a large salad. But it's a salad with a history. A salad with gravitas. It's a bit like a modern doctor telling you to treat your anxiety by adopting the specific meditation routine of a famous, successful CEO. The advice itself is simple, but it's imbued with the power of its most famous adherent. Historians still debate the specifics of Augustus's illness and recovery. Some suggest he had a liver condition that was exacerbated by the hot poultices his other doctors were applying, and Musa's cold treatments simply reduced the inflammation. Others argue that the lettuce itself, with its mild sedative compounds, genuinely did help him rest, allowing his body to heal. Whatever the scientific reality, the story's cultural impact was immense. It created a powerful, positive association between lettuce, healing, and the authority of the emperor. So you leave the taberna medica, clutching not a bottle of strange liquid, but a renewed sense of purpose and a head full of lettuce-based instructions. You go to the market and buy the best-looking head of lettuce you can find. feeling a bit foolish but also hopeful. That evening, you perform the ritual exactly as prescribed. You wash the leaves in cool water. And you sit down to eat your medicinal meal. It feels different from just grabbing a few leaves in the middle of the night. This is a deliberate, prescribed act of self-care. Each crunchy, slightly bitter bite is an act of faith in the wisdom of the medicus, in the experience of generations, and in the story of an emperor who was, so the legend goes, saved by this very plant. You lie down in bed, the familiar noises of the insula beginning their nightly chorus. But this time, something feels different inside you. It's not just the physical sensation of a stomach full of greens. It's the psychological comfort of having followed a clear, authoritative instruction. You have outsourced the worry. You have placed your trust in a cure fit for an emperor. You close your eyes, not with the frantic desperation of the previous night, but with a quiet, hopeful sense of anticipation, waiting for the humble lettuce to perform its imperial magic and grant you the simple, profound gift of sleep. A few nights of the imperial lettuce diet have passed, and while your sleep has marginally improved, the deep, restorative peace you crave remains elusive. The restlessness, though dampened, persists. It's clear that a stronger intervention is needed. This means your next visit to the medicus will move beyond salads and into the more hands-on, and frankly, much stranger, world of applied remedies. You are about to enter the realm of potions, poultices, and plasters. When you return to the taberna medica and report your mixed results, the doctor nods gravely. He expected this. The lettuce was merely to calm the initial agitation. Now, he must concoct a more complex, targeted formula. You watch as he turns from a mere consultant into a craftsman, an alchemist of the organic. He begins to assemble the ingredients for your prescription, and it's a far cry from the simple contents of your kitchen. First, he prepares a potion, a pocio. This is the internal component of the attack. He starts with a base of wine, but not the cheap, watered-down stuff you drink. This is a specific type of wine, chosen for its cool properties. Into this, he begins to add his ingredients. He takes a small, gnarled root from a jar and grates it into the wine. It's valerian root, a substance known even then for its powerful sedative effects and its distinctively pungent, earthy smell, a bit like old socks. Next, he adds a pinch of black henbane seeds. This is a potent, dangerous ingredient, a powerful narcotic and poison in larger doses. He measures it with extreme care, his movements precise and deliberate. You know of henbane, it's whispered to be an ingredient in the potions of witches. Seeing it used by a legitimate physician is both terrifying and thrilling. It shows the seriousness of your condition. He continues to add to the mixture some crushed poppy petals, a step up from the seeds you used, a sprinkle of powdered mandrake root, another famously potent and mystical plant, and a dash of licorice to make the foul concoction even remotely palatable. He stirs it all together in a bronze bowl, the mixture turning a murky, unappetizing brown. This is not a soothing herbal tea. This is a chemical cudgel designed to knock your overactive humors unconscious. He decants the liquid into a small clay flask, gives you a stern warning about the dosage, no more than a small cupful, and hands it to you. It feels heavy in your hands, a vessel of forbidden sleep. But the treatment isn't just internal. Your humors must be attacked from the outside as well. The medicus now prepares a poultice, a cataplasma, to be applied to your chest or the soles of your feet. The logic is that the therapeutic properties can be absorbed through the skin, directly into the body. The base for this is a warm mash of barley or fenugreek seeds, creating a soft, warm paste. Into this, he mixes ingredients that are less about sedation and more about creating a comforting, gentle warmth to counteract the cold anxiety he believes is complicating your hot restlessness. Remember the idea of treating a complex condition with multiple balancing forces? This is it in action. He adds powdered cinnamon and crushed mint leaves. The final product is a warm, fragrant, mushy pad that you are instructed to wrap in a linen cloth and apply before bed. You now have your prescribed arsenal, a murky, potentially hallucinogenic potion to drink, and a warm, smelly paste to wear. You pay the medicus his fee, a significant sum, and carry your remedies home as if they were fragile relics. That night, you perform the new ritual with a mixture of hope and trepidation. First, The potion. You unstopper the flask, and the smell hits you, the earthy valerian, the strange sweetness of the henbane, all barely masked by the wine. You pour the prescribed amount. Hold your breath, and drink it down. It tastes as bad as it smells. A bitter, earthy slurry that makes you shudder. You can almost feel it sinking into you. A heavy, medicinal weight. Next, the poultice. You've warmed the barley mash as instructed, and you apply the warm, minty cinnamon pad to the soles of your feet, securing it with linen strips. The sensation is odd but not unpleasant, a gentle, penetrating warmth that seems to draw the tension downwards, away from your buzzing head. You are now a walking, or rather, a lying down, testament to Roman pharmacology. You have ingested a powerful sedative and are wearing a therapeutic foot mask. You probably smell like a bizarre combination of a spice cabinet and a damp forest floor. The memory of your simple, clean-smelling lavender plaster seems like a distant, innocent dream. Historians often emphasize that Roman medicine was not just about finding a single cure. It was about creating a holistic experience, an assault on the ailment from multiple angles using a combination of internal and external, hot and cold, and soothing and powerful treatments. You are living that holistic philosophy. You lie back, the world already starting to feel a bit fuzzy around the edges from the potion. The warmth on your feet is a comforting anchor. And for the first time in a long time, you feel that the powerful forces of medicine might actually be stronger than the stubborn forces of your own wakefulness. The potion from the medicus does not bring sleep. Not true sleep. Anyway, it brings a heavy, viscous state of non-awakeness. A thick, syrupy darkness that feels more like being submerged than rested. Your consciousness doesn't switch off, it just sinks. In this murky depth, strange, fragmented images drift by. A face you don't recognize. The sound of rushing water. The feeling of falling. It's a chemically induced twilight. Not the gentle peace of natural slumber. When you surface from it after a few hours, you feel groggy and disconnected. Your head thick with the residue of the henbane and mandrake. The poultice on your feet has grown cold. Your body may have been immobilized, but your spirit, your animus, is still churning. This is a new and more profound kind of frustration. The doctor's science has quieted your physical form, but it has done nothing to soothe the core of your anxiety. It's like silencing a crying baby by putting it in a soundproof box. The distress is still there. You just can't hear it. You realize then that your problem may not be entirely of the humors, of the flesh and its fickle fluids. It's a problem of the soul. And for that, you need a different kind of physician. You need a god. Your family, like most, maintains a small household shrine. A lurarium. It's a little niche built into the wall of your main room. Home to the lares, the guardian spirits of your family. And the penates, the protectors of your pantry. It's your family's spiritual epicenter. The place you leave small offerings of food and wine to ensure good fortune and protection. But tonight, you're not praying for a good harvest or a successful business deal. Your plea is far more personal. And it's directed at a quieter, more elusive deity who doesn't have grand temples built in the forum. You are going to pray to Somnus, the god of sleep. You slip out of bed, your movements now having the gravity of a sacred rite. You approach the lurarium, where a tiny oil lamp casts a soft, wavering glow on the small, painted figurines of your household gods. Somnus has no figurine here. He is a chthonic deity, a primordial force, son of night and brother of death. He doesn't live on bright Mount Olympus with the boisterous, squabbling gods of the state. His home, as the poets say, is a dark cave in a land of eternal twilight, surrounded by poppy flowers and the river of forgetfulness. No light ever enters, no sound is ever heard. It is a place of absolute stillness. And that is what you are praying for, a small piece of his divine silence. Your offering must be fitting. You don't have a goat to sacrifice. And that wouldn't be appropriate anyway. This is a quiet plea. So the offering must be quiet. 2. You pour a small clay cup of milk, a symbol of nurturing and calm. You stir in a spoonful of honey, a sweetener for the gods, an enticement. From a small pouch, you take a few dried, crimson petals of the poppy flower, the plant most sacred to Somnus, and float them on the surface of the milk. Finally, you light a stick of incense, a cheap one made of sandalwood and cedar. But its fragrant smoke is what will carry your prayer upwards. or perhaps downwards, to the gods' quiet realm. It's the ancient equivalent of sending a scented email to the divine. You place the cup before the lararium, the incense smoke curling gracefully in the still air. You don't kneel in dramatic supplication. You simply stand, your head bowed, and you speak in a whisper, your voice barely audible even to yourself. Somnus, gentle God, Somnus, quietest of all deities, peace of the soul, who drives away the cares of the mind. I ask for your mercy. You tell him of your long nights, of the buzzing in your head, of the noises that won't cease. You describe the heavy, false sleep of the potion. I do not ask for oblivion. You whisper, I ask only for rest. Let your son, Morpheus, bring me empty dreams, still the humors that my medicus cannot tame. Allow me to borrow, just for a few hours, the peace of your silent cave. Historians still debate the precise nature of Roman personal faith. Was this a literal belief in a conscious, listening God named Somnus, or a more philosophical act of personifying a natural force to calm the mind? For you, in this moment, the distinction is meaningless. The act of ritual, of formulating the prayer, of making the offering, is in itself a powerful balm. You are admitting you are not in control. You are handing over your anxiety to a power greater than yourself. Be it a god or the very idea of tranquility. You are formally requesting help from the universe. You stand there for a long time, watching the incense burn down, its ash falling like soft gray snow. The air is thick with its calming scent, mingled with the sweet aroma of the milk and honey. A profound sense of calm begins to settle over you, a calm that feels different from the chemical heaviness of the potion. This is a psychological peace, a feeling of being heard, of being cared for. You have done everything you can. You have treated your body with lettuce and your humors with potions. Now, you have treated your soul with reverence. You have appealed to the highest authority of all. With a final, silent nod to the shrine, you turn and walk back to your bed. You lie down, and as you close your eyes, you feel a gentle, quiet presence. The world outside has not changed, but you have invited a sacred stillness into the small space of your own mind. Now, you can finally let go. You are in the hands of the god of sleep. The intercession of Somnus seems to have worked, or perhaps it was the cumulative effect of all your efforts. You finally achieve a state of true, deep sleep, but it is not the empty, peaceful void you prayed for. Instead, your mind, finally unshackled, plunges into a vivid, chaotic, and utterly bizarre dream. You are not in your insula anymore. You are standing in a field of towering lettuce plants, their leaves as large as shields. Emperor Augustus is there, dressed as a baker, and he is solemnly handing you a live chicken that is snoring loudly. The chicken then begins to recite a terrible poem, and you feel an overwhelming sense of embarrassment on its behalf. The dream shifts, and now you are trying to plug a leaking amphora with greasy wool. But the fish-scented garum keeps seeping through your fingers. It's a nonsensical, anxiety-ridden montage pulled from the scraps of your waking life and fears. You wake up with a jolt, your heart pounding, the strange imagery still clinging to you like cobwebs. You feel more exhausted than when you went to sleep. The rest was deep, but it was not restful. So, on your next visit to the medicus, you have a new and more complex symptom to report. You're not just sleepless anymore, you're a victim of troublesome dreams. The doctor listens to your account with intense, focused interest, his expression turning from that of a mere pharmacist to that of a detective. To a Roman physician trained in the tradition of Hippocrates and Galen, dreams were not just random mental noise. They were a direct, symbolic report from the inside of your body. They were a diagnostic tool of the highest order, a window into the soul and the humors. The content of your dream, he believes, is a message from your own physiology, a coded dispatch from the front lines of your internal imbalance. Tell me everything, he says, leaning forward. The chicken, was it plump or scrawny? The garum, was it dark or light in color? Every bizarre detail, you realize, is a potential clue. He is not a Freudian analyst looking for subconscious desires. He is a humoral pathologist looking for physical signs. He begins to interpret your dream through his medical lens. The towering lettuce, he explains, is a clear sign that your body is still grappling with the cooling treatment. It acknowledges the remedy but shows it is overwhelming, out of proportion. The presence of Emperor Augustus is a good sign. showing a desire for order and health. But his being dressed as a baker signifies a conflict. The baker's oven is a source of dry heat, a direct contradiction to the lettuce's cool, moist properties. Your body, he surmises, is in a state of thermal confusion. The snoring chicken is the most telling detail. A chicken, being a bird, is naturally a hot and dry creature. Its snoring, a form of troubled breathing, indicates that this heat is being agitated, likely by an underlying phlegmatic condition, a cold and moist humor you hadn't previously considered. This, he proclaims, is the source of your exhaustion. Your humors are not just imbalanced, they are actively at war, creating a chaotic internal environment that is reflected in your chaotic dreams. The leaking amphora of garum, he concludes, represents a waste of vital fluids, a sign that your body's essential energies are being depleted by this internal conflict. Historians find this aspect of ancient medicine fascinating. Dream interpretation wasn't just for mystics in the marketplace, it was a core part of mainstream medical practice. The great physician Galen himself wrote extensively on the subject, believing that dreams of fire, for example, clearly pointed to an excess of yellow bile, hot and dry, while dreams of smoke or fog suggested an overabundance of black bile, cold and dry. A dream of being stuck in the mud could signify too much phlegm. Your doctor is practicing by the book Galenic oniromancy. It's a strange kind of comfort. Your bizarre, nonsensical dream is suddenly transformed into a logical, albeit symbolic, diagnostic chart. It's not just your mind being weird, it's your body communicating in the only language it has in the depths of sleep. It feels scientific, productive. The medicus now has a new, more refined diagnosis. Your initial excess of hot bile has been complicated by a sluggish, underlying phlegmatic condition, creating a state of internal turmoil. This new diagnosis, born from the innards of a snoring chicken dream, requires a new course of action. The treatments must now be dual purpose. They must continue to gently cool the lingering heat while also working to dry out the excess moisture from the phlegm. The simple application of opposites is no longer sufficient. This requires a more sophisticated, nuanced approach. The doctor turns back to his shelves of mysterious jars. But this time his choices are different. He's no longer looking for a simple sedative sledgehammer. He's looking for ingredients that can perform a delicate balancing act. Your journey for a good night's sleep has taken a strange turn, leading you from your own anxieties, through a field of giant lettuce, and into a new and more complex phase of your treatment. All because a dream chicken couldn't stop snoring. Armed with this new, dream-derived diagnosis of a hot and wet internal conflict, the medicus shifts his focus from what you should do to what you must not do. Before he mixes another complex potion, he gives you a stern lecture on the most critical aspect of humoral management, your diet. The cure begins at the dinner table, he says, wagging a finger. You cannot calm the body with my medicines if you inflame it with your food. He is essentially putting you on a strict, prescriptive elimination diet designed to starve your rogue humors into submission. He begins to list the forbidden foods, and your heart sinks a little with each one. This list is not based on calories or carbohydrates, but on the fundamental energetic properties, the hot, cold, wet, and dry qualities that every single foodstuff is believed to possess. First and foremost, he tells you, you must avoid all foods that are inherently heating and moistening, as these will only feed the internal chaos. This means, tragically, a temporary ban on garlic and onions, two staples of your diet that are considered powerfully heating. Leeks are also out. They are, he explains, notorious for agitating the vapors in the head, leading to troublesome dreams, a claim that the great writer Pliny the Elder made with utmost seriousness. Next, he turns to meats. All red meats, especially goat and pork, are far too heating. You are to stick to small amounts of poultry, ironically, given your dream, but it must be boiled, never roasted or fried, as the cooking method itself adds heat. Fish is a complicated category. Some fish from muddy riverbeds are considered dangerously moistening, while lean sea fish are more acceptable. He gives you a list of safe fish, which, of course, are the more expensive ones at the market, and absolutely no shellfish. Oysters and mussels are the very embodiment of cold and wet, and while they might seem like a good counterbalance, he warns that they can create a sluggish dampness that will only worsen your phlegmatic state. Then comes the lecture on drinks. Wine, your daily comfort, must be severely restricted, and when you do drink it, it must be a specific type: light, dry, white wine, heavily watered down, strong. Red wines are far too heating and will only excite the blood and trouble your sleep. As for other drinks, you are to avoid anything too cold. It seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't an ice-cold drink help with the heat? No, he explains with the patience of someone repeating a fundamental law of physics. A shockingly cold drink will cause the body to overreact and produce its own internal heat to compensate, ultimately making the problem worse. All your water should be drunk at room temperature. The list of don'ts seems endless and frankly a bit depressing. He warns you against most green vegetables, especially cabbage, which is known to be windy and unsettling. Lentils and beans are also forbidden, as they are heavy and difficult to digest, putting a strain on the system that can manifest as nighttime restlessness. Even certain fruits are off limits. Ripe figs and dates, he says, are too moist and sugary, creating a sticky humor. Historians often note that these dietary restrictions, laid out in texts by writers like Celsus and Pliny, formed a complex and often contradictory web of rules that would have been incredibly difficult for an ordinary person to follow perfectly. Instead of all these flavorful, common foods, your diet is to consist of neutral and drying things. Stale bread, for example, is considered superior to fresh bread because the freshness contains too much moist air. Boiled eggs, toasted almonds, a few bland root vegetables. It's a diet designed not for pleasure, but for medicinal effect. It's the ancient equivalent of being told to eat nothing but plain boiled chicken and steamed rice for a month. You leave the taberna this time not with a potion or a poultice, but with a mental list of all the simple joys of eating that have just been taken from you. The spicy sausage from the street vendor, the shared bottle of red wine with friends, the rich lentil stew your wife makes, all are now forbidden pleasures. Potential enemies in your war for sleep. That evening, your dinner is a sad affair, a hard-boiled egg and a piece of dry, twice-baked bread, washed down with lukewarm water. It's bland, joyless, and deeply unsatisfying, but as you chew the dry bread, you focus on the doctor's logic. You are not just eating, you're performing a medical procedure. You are systematically depriving your internal enemies of their fuel. Each joyless bite is a small victory, a step toward restoring the quiet, boring, beautiful balance that you so desperately miss. You are starving a fever, or rather, starving a humoral imbalance, one miserable, medically approved meal at a time. After a week on the bland, joyless diet of a saintly ascetic, you feel clean and hungry. The dietary restrictions seem to have taken the edge off your restlessness, but a deep-seated weariness remains. You report this to the medicus, who nods sagely. The diet has prepared the ground, he explains. It has cleared out the worst of the bad humors. Now, it is time for a more profound, full-body therapy. He doesn't prescribe a new potion. Instead, he prescribes an activity, a specific, ritualized visit to the public baths. For you, the baths, the thermae, have always been a place of social activity, noise, and leisure. It's where you go after a long day's work to meet friends, gossip, exercise, and get clean. It's a loud, steamy, chaotic hub of Roman life. The idea of using this place as a tool for sleep seems utterly paradoxical. But the doctor is not sending you there to socialize. He is sending you with a precise, therapeutic sequence to follow, turning the public bathhouse into a private sanatorium. His instructions are to transform a recreational habit into a medical procedure. You will go in the late afternoon. As the crowds begin to thin, he instructs, you will not speak to anyone. This is not for pleasure. This is for your health. He lays out the sequence. A journey through varying temperatures designed to manipulate your humors with scientific precision. Your first stop, he says, is the palestra, the open-air exercise yard. But you are not to engage in a vigorous game of handball or wrestling. Instead, you are to perform slow, gentle stretches. The goal is not to build muscle or break a sweat, but to gently awaken the body's energies and prepare it for the heat to come. You picture yourself alone in a corner of the bustling courtyard. performing what amounts to a session of ancient Roman yoga while others are shouting, laughing, and throwing balls. From there, you are to proceed to the tepidarium, the warm room. This is the crucial antechamber, the place of transition. The air is pleasantly warm and steamy, heated by the radiant heat from the hollow floors and walls, the famous Roman hypocaust system. You are to sit here for a long time, at least half an hour, allowing your body to acclimate slowly. The warmth will begin to loosen the phlegmatic humors, the doctor explained, preparing them to be expelled. It's a gentle, persuasive heat, not a shock to the system. Next comes the most intense part of the ritual, a brief, strategic visit to the caldarium, the hot room. The air here is thick, steamy, and almost scorching. Sweat immediately beads on your skin. You are not to linger here, the doctor warned. A prolonged stay would be too heating and would aggravate your bile. You are there for one purpose only, to sweat profusely for a few minutes. A process that will purge the excess moisture from your system. You might use a strigil, that curved metal tool, to scrape the mixture of oil, sweat, and dirt from your skin, a symbolic and physical act of purification. Then comes the most critical and, frankly, most dreaded step, the frigidarium. After the intense heat of the caldarium, you are to walk directly to the cold plunge pool and immerse yourself completely. The shock of the cold water, the doctor explained, is the key. It is a therapeutic jolt designed to close the pores, tone the flesh, and shock the lingering heat from the body's core. It is the ultimate expression of treating with opposites. You imagine the breathtaking, gut-wrenching shock of that icy water. It feels less like therapy and more like a form of self-inflicted punishment. After the cold plunge, your ritual is over. You are to dry yourself thoroughly, wrap yourself in warm linen, and go straight home. No lingering, no chatting, no post-bath snack from the vendors outside. The entire sequence, from gentle stretching to the final, shocking plunge, is a carefully orchestrated dance of temperatures designed to first open, then purge, then seal your body, leaving your humors in a state of tranquil, exhausted balance. Historians confirm that Roman physicians frequently prescribed specific bathing routines to treat a variety of ailments, from arthritis to indigestion and, of course, insomnia. The bathhouse was seen as a versatile medical facility, a place where the powerful forces of hot and cold could be wielded with precision. That afternoon, you follow the instructions to the letter. You feel self-conscious performing your slow stretches in the boisterous palestra. You sit in silent meditation in the tepidarium, ignoring the chatter around you. You brave the oppressive heat of the caldarium for a few sweaty, intense minutes, and then, you take a deep breath and lower yourself into the shockingly cold waters of the frigidarium. The cold is a physical blow, stealing your breath and making your muscles seize. But as you emerge, gasping, a strange and wonderful sensation spreads through you. Your skin tingles, your mind feels startlingly clear, and your body feels heavy, relaxed, and utterly spent. You dry off, wrap yourself in your cloak, and walk home through the twilight. A profound sense of calm enveloping you. You have not just bathed, you have reset your entire system. The therapeutic bathing ritual has a profound effect. For several nights, you sleep better than you have in months. The combination of the bland diet and the thermal shock therapy seems to have finally brought your warring humors to a truce. But the peace is fragile. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at the workshop, the old familiar restlessness returns. A ghost at the feast. The anxiety buzzes behind your eyes. And you know, with a sinking heart, that the balanced state you achieved was temporary. Your condition is more stubborn, more deeply rooted than you thought. This relapse calls for a desperate measure. On your next visit, the medicus wears a somber expression. He has exhausted the common tools of his trade, the dietary plans, the gentle herbs, the baths. Now, he must turn to one of the most powerful, mythologized, and feared substances in his entire pharmacopoeia. He is going to prescribe mandrake. The very name, mandragora, is spoken with a mixture of awe and fear. This is not just a plant, it is a thing of potent magic. You've heard the stories, the folklore whispered by old women and laborers. The mandrake root, they say, grows under the gallows, sprung from the bodily fluids of a hanged man. Its root is forked, grotesquely resembling a human figure. A little man or woman, And when you pull it from the earth, it lets out a scream so blood-curdling, so piercing, that any living creature who hears it will instantly die or be driven mad. Its power is immense, but harvesting it is a mortal risk. The medicus, of course, dismisses these stories as peasant superstition, but even in his clinical explanation, there is a palpable sense of respect for the plant's power. He doesn't tell you how he acquired it. Physicians had their own trusted, and secretive, suppliers for such potent herbs. The process he describes for its safe harvesting, as recorded by writers like Josephus, is a bizarre ritual in itself. You must not pull it yourself. You are to trace 3 circles around the plant with a sword, facing west. Then, you tie a rope from the plant's base to the neck of a dog. You place a piece of meat just out of the dog's reach. When the dog lunges for the meat, it will pull the mandrake from the ground. The dog will hear the shriek and perish. But you, standing at a safe distance with your ears plugged with wax, will have safely obtained the root. Historians see these elaborate rituals as a combination of practical folk knowledge and a clever way to build mystique and justify the exorbitant price of the ingredient. The scream was likely the sound of air escaping from the dense, moist root as it was pulled from the soil, amplified by a healthy dose of terrified imagination. But for you, hearing the doctor talk about it, the magic feels very real. The doctor's prescription is not for the raw root, which would be lethally toxic. He prepares it with extreme caution. He shows you a small piece of the dried, gnarled root. It does look vaguely like a tiny, twisted person. He will use only a minuscule scraping, a fine powder, to be mixed into a heavily diluted wine paste. This is not like the henbane potion you took before. This is a targeted, powerful narcotic, to be used only as a last resort. He also prepares a different kind of remedy, a mandrake amulet. He gives you a tiny sliver of the root, wrapped tightly in a small piece of linen and tied with a leather cord. Wear this around your neck as you sleep. He instructs. Its very presence has a soporific quality. It will guard your dreams. This dual approach, a tiny internal dose and an external talisman, is a perfect example of where Roman medicine and magic blurred into one. He is treating your body with the plant's chemical properties while also treating your mind with its symbolic power. Is the amulet effective because of some subtle vapor it emits, or because you believe so strongly in its power that your own mind creates the calming effect? The medicus doesn't say, and you don't ask. You just accept both forms of the cure. That night, the ritual feels heavier, more significant than any before. You swallow the tiny amount of the wine paste. Its taste bitter and strange. You tie the small, lumpy amulet around your neck. It rests against your skin. A small, tangible piece of ancient and dangerous magic. Lying in bed, you are acutely aware of it. You feel like you have a sleeping guard on duty. A tiny, powerful root spirit protecting you from the anxieties that haunt your nights. This is no longer just about balancing humors with lettuce and hot baths. This is about fighting fire with fire. Or rather, fighting a troubled spirit with a powerful plant spirit. You have invoked one of nature's most feared and respected forces, hoping its legendary power to bring oblivion is strong enough to finally conquer the stubborn wakefulness within you.